from the living room as Doug eyes up the matchday spread. He's reaching for the buffalo wing. Perfect!
Alrighty, what is happening, party people? It is your boy, Coach Sean, in the building. I did all that, and I still didn't even start up my TikTok. It's gonna be a minute. We're gonna be real. Ooh, 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 it's real loud. Hold up. I'm really excited for this conversation as we continue our series on the dating app dilemma. All right. So again, forgive me. We're still getting some stuff set up. Had to take a little bit of extra notes right there. But we're going to get some things started. So do me a favor as we are getting some things going. All right. Happy Friday to you. Let me know where you are, perhaps watching this from. And also, what plans you got going on for this weekend. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Again, I am so excited for this conversation. If you're new here, all right, my name is Coach Sean, and I am a faith based relationship coach who is here to help others build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with themselves, with God, and with others while building security that lasts beyond marriage. And we've been having some really good conversations over these last couple days that has honestly turned into a series and is going to extend on the topic of dating apps. Okay, this is probably one of the biggest questions I've been getting from clients, from people that I have spent time working with and working through various experiences in the dating scene, whether they're single, maybe they're in a relationship, but reflecting on their time using dating apps, all the things. And this has been one of those prominent questions and conversations that has been had that has come with a lot of questions, assumptions, curiosities, and struggles. Okay, so we're diving into it all. And of course, we're not going to get to it all today, but this is part 3. So if you missed the previous 2, all right, hey, I want you to go check those out. Those are over on my YouTube. If you're watching from YouTube, what's up? So good to see you. Shout out to Shanae in the building on TikTok. Greetings to you. Hope you are well. Happy Friday. Happy Juneteenth. It's a beautiful day. All right. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Um, and just so we're staying on top of everything, we're going to be in and out of here, man. Give it about an hour and keep it pushing. Okay. So again, I really appreciate you guys watching this, whether you're watching it on the replay, you're live, commenting with us. Okay. I love it. Like I said, if you've missed the previous 2, go ahead and check out my YouTube. There I have my previous 2 live streams, beginning discussions. Okay. The first one was kind of laying the groundwork on the type of questions that we're going to travel through. And the second was really relative to a lot of the data behind dating apps. Okay. A lot of statistics, numbers, studies, and so on and so forth, the things that have been discovered and experienced in the dating space. Okay. And so I definitely encourage you guys to check those out. A little bit of a longer conversation, but I think it's important, especially as we're setting and continuing to set beginning groundwork for what this is going to look like. Because again, dating is always a topic of conversation, breakups, relationships, how to date well, how to date intentionally. And truth be told, there's a lot of us that haven't been taught how to date, right? We kind of were just thrown out there trying to figure it out on our own because we knew we ultimately wanted marriage, long term relationships, all the things, but we did not know how to date effectively. Okay. How to handle rejection, how to handle the ghostings, how to handle all these things, interactions, conflict. And so this is the space to dive into those conversations. I promise you there's going to be so much more where this comes from. But we're just beginning to lay the foundations here today. All right. So as you're walking in, do me a favor. Share with me your life satisfaction rate on a scale of 1 to 10, where you are. All right. And then I want you to um I want you to tell me what has been your biggest struggles or issues in regards to dating. Okay. What has been your biggest issues or struggles in regards to dating? So fill me in on that as we get going on TikTok. I'm trying to figure out what's going on over on my Instagram. So we're going to figure that out here in just a minute. Um, but everybody else, hey, what's going on? What is your experience with dating, and where are you at on your life satisfaction rate on a scale of 1 to 10? Talk to me and let me know. Um, uh, Here we go. Yes, of course, you're sending data, but you have no data to send. So, boom. We're going to save that. Hopefully that picks up. What's up, everybody? Walking in. How are you? If you're new, my name is Coach Sean. I'm a faith-based relationship coach, and I've helped hundreds build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with themselves, with God, and with others while building security that lasts beyond marriage. And we are continuing our conversation in our series covering dating apps. Okay. Again, not to persuade you to use them, not to force you to use them in any kind of way or length, but to give ourselves the best perspectives on both sides to be able to make a healthy decision. Okay. A big part of everything that we do here is to give you guys an opportunity to make healthy decisions in your dating, healthy decisions in your friendships, healthy decisions across the board with relationships to yourself, God, and others. Okay. And this is the space to be. Okay. This might be arguably the safest live you'll walk into. This is going to be a little bit of a teaching kind of show right now, but it can definitely grow into a Q&A depending on the duration of this conversation. Okay, what's up, Jamie? Good to see you. Hope all is well. Fill me in on your one, life satisfaction. Okay, and two, what's been your experiences with dating? Okay, are you currently dating? Are you single and satisfied? Single and looking? Okay, have you used dating apps? Are you wanting to use dating apps? Do you have a bias against dating apps? No right or wrong answers, nothing but curiosity. And we're just going to go ahead and get these conversations rolling because I've got some interesting perspectives that I think you guys are going to benefit from hearing today because we're addressing the first question, okay? Really regarding the real problems behind dating apps. And there's a list of common perspectives towards dating apps that are shared amongst many people. Okay. And the assumptions, the beliefs, all those things that are cultivated. And again, this is not to be a space to prove you wrong. This is not to be a space to create debate. This is just a space to give ourselves perhaps some healthier lenses and outlooks on how to engage in these things healthily. Because truth is, regardless of what I say, regardless of what anybody else says, not only are people saying yes to dating apps, getting on dating apps, and using dating apps, but people are just going to continue to date and build relationships in some kind of way, right? Whether if that's not on an app, if that's in if that's in real life, in person, all the things. And so why not just give ourselves some of the better outlooks, okay, to experience dating from a healthy lens? And that's what I'm here to do. All right. And we're going to unpack it and we're going to start here in just a few moments. Shout out to Shanae. A quick question she asked: do you think people are afraid of being judged of desperation if they use them? Absolutely. And we're actually going to get into that. You must be somewhere in the notes. We're definitely going to get into that because that is a very real feeling and a very real belief among many people, not just the aspect of feeling desperate in using apps, but also feeling desperate for investing into the apps. Okay. So it's for some people, you've heard a lot of different perspectives that you get online. Putting yourself on a dating app is like putting yourself on a clearance rack, or purchasing a membership, to have more access in a dating app, is a reflection of desperation. Makes you look like you're settling for crumbs and anything else. And I think after today's conversation, we're probably going to walk away with just a few different perspectives towards those things that for some of you may be challenging. For some of you, it may be something that's affirming. For some of you, you might walk away feeling mad than ever. All right. But this is the space to be and to unpack it. All right. So stick with me as we dive into this. Please be sure to like the live, repost it, share with others, to get other people in here. Okay. Get other people in the room, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're watching through Instagram or TikTok. Again, I greatly appreciate you and all your support. Before we get going, I definitely want you to check out the top of my page. I have next steps to get you to secure attachment As I said in the beginning, this page exists not just to build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with yourself, with God, and with others, but also to help you build security that lasts beyond marriage. So many people who are anxiously attached, anxiety is running your life, avoidance is keeping you in places of self sabotage and losing relationships, losing connections. And I have a program that is literally designed to get you out of those places and more into a secure alignment more closely to who God is calling you to be. And so if that's something that you're interested in, that's more tangible, that's applicable, okay, and something that actually gives you momentum to seeing healthier relationships and experiencing the love you've been looking for without losing yourself, be sure to send me a message, DM me on socials, TikTok, Instagram with the keyword secure, okay, and we'll be able to get the ball rolling to get you going there. Also, again, at the top of my page on all social platforms, you're able to see a link that you will be able to click to get yourself a free relational diagnostic so you can see where you are in the field of relationships, answering some healthy, tough questions. And you can also learn your attachment style. If you are unfamiliar with what your attachment style is, you have a 25-question quiz that gets straight to the point, that gets you an opportunity to see that for free. Okay. All at the top of the page for that link. Be sure to check that out. I'm posting content daily, regularly, so stay tuned for that. I have a secure program, as I said earlier. I think we covered it all. If there's more, I'll come back to it. I'm excited. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. So there's a few things that we have to. And before I get going, hold on. I'm gonna put this on pause really quick. TikTok. I gotta get this on my actual Google Doc. I forgot this would happen, but it did. So we're going to fix that. This is going on a Google Doc really quickly, so I can just pull it up on my deal. Okay, boom. And now we're live. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Okay, again, I would love for you guys to like this live. Okay, no requirements to send gifts, all the things, but I think anything you send, I'm greatly appreciative for. In this time, if you're over on TikTok, I know they do like a whole gift system, things like that. But hey, it's gonna be a good conversation. So I want to talk a little bit about the problems of dating apps. Let's talk about it. All right, because truth is that dating apps get a lot of bad rap, right? I don't think we're strangers to that. Whether you are a Christian, you are a Buddhist, a Muslim, whoever, wherever religion you stand, belief system you carry, and how you navigate relationships, you probably have heard in one way or another, dating apps got a bad rap. Okay, it's a lot of pee in the dating pool. It's ineffective. Nobody's out here, and it's all trash. Okay, and for some people, that is a legitimate reflection of a legitimate experience. Okay. You've went on plenty of dates, had matches, turned out to be trash. You had matches, didn't get a message, had matches, and all this was trash. Okay. Maybe it wasn't even through a dating app per se. Maybe it was through Instagram. It was through TikTok. It was through all these different things that are showing up. Okay. And it just didn't work out. And even though we can honor and respect maybe the feeling of the experience on the dating apps and all these things being really rough, we have to be careful mixing in the lump sum of the few with the all, okay? Or going with an all or nothing mentality to where the few people you've encountered that didn't really go so well, we are now including everyone in that same lump. Because what happens is this actually is something that slowly begins if we rehearse it long enough, and this is kind of dipping into some scientific spaces, we will begin to look for the outcomes that come into agreement with the experiences we've rehearsed. It's not to say that we want it. However, it is something that our brain highlights first, dependent on how often we rehearse the experiences we've had. If I were to give you an example of that, there are a lot of you who probably deep down at one point or another said to yourself that all men are trash, all women are trash, right? Or, dating as a whole has got a lot of piss in it and it's awful. Okay. And you hear those statements repeated through the social media airwaves. You hear those statements repeated, regurgitated, and repackaged in various different ways, whether it's from a pulpit, it's on a podcast, whatever the case is. And so now, because we've heard it so much, whether it's from authoritative figures, maybe based on a big or traumatic event, not everything is trauma, that's another conversation, or just constant messaging, which is more so where it fits for a lot of you, where you find it there. Now our brains and bodies are beginning to receive this as a normalized message. And because this is a normalized message and it's been rehearsed for so long, what's called a reticular activation system in your brain is now not only alerted, but is alerting and highlighting quicker the agreement to the belief you've rehearsed. Dating is trash, men are trash, women are trash, whatever you want to call it. And it keeps you from keeping yourself available and open to seeing those who are valid candidates, secure, and building healthy relationships. Why does this matter? Because if we are going into dating scenes and situations and we're telling ourselves repetitively that something that we're stepping into is bad, there is not a legitimate, realistic shot that we're giving ourselves to find something that's healthy, to find something that's good, to find something that's available, to find something that's worth building. Okay. And this is really going into what will culminate in the end. And maybe you already know where I'm going because I've said this numerous of times in previous videos, lives, all the things. But I really want to challenge this perspective that dating apps in and of themselves are the issue. Because as we've talked about yesterday, or if you were here, maybe you watched previous live streams, as we've talked about, there is a legitimate issue, okay? A legitimate issue behind people believing that dating apps are the full issue. Because now we're limiting ourselves from putting ourselves in position to actually experience and create healthier relationships or just variety of relationships and giving ourselves the best opportunity to connect. And what's crazy is what we apply to dating apps like Hinge, Tinder, BLK, Upward, Holy App, all those things, we actually choose selectively because we don't apply those same things to apps like Instagram, TikTok, okay? All your favorite social media hotspots that also can be used as a form of dating apps. And when we're saying dating apps, we're just simply saying another source of connection for people to meet. Okay. Another section of an area for people to meet. Sliding into DMs, you're liking photos, you're following accounts, all the things. It's literally the same thing as if you were to get on a dating app, although it obviously for Instagram, social media, there's a variety of other things you can use it for than just creating a dating profile. But let's not act like those things aren't included when it comes to someone searching and looking on who would make sense for them to date, shoot their shot, or connect with. Hence, this is why you'll probably get on a dating app and you'll see people refer their Instagrams, refer their TikToks in their bios. Why? Because it's another layer for people to be able to get to know you, see what you post, see what you look like, see what you engage with, what your followers, all the kind of situations that we look for to determine what makes sense. Okay. So you can do research. You got it, Shanae. So you can do research, right? There's the dating app, and then people will point you to a different direction. Why? Because I need to know more. Okay. I need to know more. So without going all over the place, all right, and getting into this dating app dilemma, the first question that we're answering is why are dating apps such an issue? Okay. And I just want to give you a few things that people typically blame. And we're going to go one problem at a time. And then what is a different perspective or healthier perspective to look at? Okay. So, number one, when we're talking about dating apps and why it's such an issue, one of the more common perspectives that people give is that dating apps are just for hookups. Okay. I want y'all to type that in the chat. Dating apps are just for hookups. That's the first problem. Okay. This is the first problem that people typically blame. Dating apps are just for hookups. Now, here's the issue, right? Here's the issue with us believing that dating apps are just for hookups. Okay. Truth is that even though there are some people who will get on dating apps and use dating apps for hookups, that is not the essential usage or purposes of dating apps. Because if we actually look at what is even required for someone to engage in something for the intentional purposes of a hookup, guess what's required to do that? What's required is for you to have a mind made up within yourself that I am only going to engage with said app, said, social media account, said this, said that, as a means to get some draws, as a means to slide in the bed, as a means to have a fun night and have a happy ending. But all that is based off of you, the individual, your intentionality, your direction, and what type of energy you're giving when it comes to creating the account, posting on the account, so on and so forth. So guess what the real problem is for this? If we're going to say dating apps are just for hookups, the real issue is you. The real issue is the energy you're leading with. The real issue is the intentionality behind the individual who is showing up for this app and who is engaging in this app in a manner to not build something intentionality or intentional. Okay. Your profile, here's my ultimate thought process. Your profile is what you make it. All right. Your profile is what you make it. Your account is what you make it. Your Instagram is what you make it. Your TikTok is what you make it. Your YouTube is what you make it. Your podcast is what you make it. Your business is what you make it. Your relationships, your marriage, your family, okay? Your wardrobe, whatever. It's what you make it. And I think too many times we've gotten into these places where we're quick to blame external people, external situations, and external environments for what? What we can control. Right? And what we can control is not only how we are approaching these apps, how we are approaching people, how we are approaching environments, but guess what we can also control? What we accept and what we allow in proximity to ourselves. I want you to write that down. What we control is what we allow and what we allow access to us for. I'm trying to paint this in a different direction so it's not sounding so crazy. What we allow is what we give access to. What we allow is what we give access to, and what we give access to is what we can control. What we allow is what we give access to, and what we give access to is what we can control. Say it one more time. What we allow is what we give access to, and what we give access to is what we have control over. Okay? And so if I'm going to give access to someone to connect with me, then that means that I have the control to say yes or no, to come into agreement or not, to do it or don't do it. It's not someone forcing me. It's not someone holding me hostage to do it. I am literally making the decisions, small decisions turning into large decisions, compounding effects that leads to an ultimate decision being made on not just the relationship, but what I'm giving access to. Okay. You don't walk around talking about somebody forcing you to listen to a particular style of music. That's just not what you do. Okay. Whether you got earbuds, AirPods, speakers, driving down the road in your phone, whatever the case is. Just like you got the permission in your own car with your own usage to turn the knob, to change the radio station, to change the type of music you're listening to type in a different song, okay, to plug in the aux, to cut it all off and ride in silence. All of that is a decision. Just like you have the decision to answer a text message or to leave a text message alone, to answer and pick up a scam likely call, or to hit decline and hit delete and report spam junk. All of these things are legitimate decisions that you can make. All of these things are legitimate decisions that you can make. And so why is it that we feel that we cannot make these same decisions when it comes to engaging with people who are presenting themselves as something in front of us that now we have an opportunity to see as it is and make a decision about it moving forward? This is what gives us the power back to be able to make that type of decision based off what we see. So the problem isn't so much that this is a center hub for hookups. Are there people that get on dating apps for those intentionalities? Yes. Does that mean that dating apps are for that alone? No. If you go back and listen to our previous conversation, we actually touched on statistics that read 12% of couples actually ending in marriage. Okay, 23% of relationships created through dating apps actually entering long-term relationships. Okay, albeit low relative numbers over recent years, but that also is giving us understanding that this is not just for the purposes of hookups. And so if we're going to not use dating apps, I think it would be really helpful if we just made the decision to not use them just because it's not your cup of tea, it's not something that you're doing. That's all fine and dandy. And again, this isn't the purposes of trying to convince you to use them. But I'm noticing the reasons why people say they don't use them are for reasons that really don't fit elsewhere, that really don't fit a lane of consistency. And what we do is we perpetuate these type of statements and sayings only because we heard somebody else say it, not because it's actually true. Okay. Your profile is what you make it. So just as you create a social media account for specifics, dating apps move the same, right? I can get on an app, create a profile, engage with people, connect with people, and not find myself moving in the same lane, same vein, and same craziness. Okay. Take myself, for example, because I've led with this type of energy. Okay. Being on dating apps and having my time on dating apps before, there was a time where your boy was moving from a place of fear of missing out. Your boy was trying to catch up. I was just on there. You know, you got those people that just swipe right. Okay. Swipe right on whatever. Just for the validation of likes, just for the validation of matches. Okay. And we're going to get to that in a minute and point out why that being an issue is more so back on you and not the actual environment. But when we're talking about these things, you know, for me, that was a time where I wasn't moving in intentionality, wasn't actually looking for serious commitment, wasn't actually looking for all those things. And so the big issue was me, right? The big issue was me showing up and not being intentional with my energy and efforts. And even though I was on there for one thing, I recognized that there were people who were on there for something completely different, which had me have to sit down and do a genuine heart check because I realized after a short while that I was moving in a very disrespectful, dishonoring manner because I wasn't taking into consideration how someone else was moving and engaging with said conversation with me. I was just solely focused on what I was after and what I wanted. And that isn't even the epitome of love or peace, let alone abundance and moving from a place of fullness. So what I quickly learned from my experience was that, man, we are not all here for the same thing. But just because we're not all here for the same thing doesn't mean that I cannot carry a specific intention with what I'm here for and be able to vet out and discern that which who are here for the same thing and perhaps who are here for something different. It takes intentionality, people. Saying dating apps are just for hookups is like saying the gym are just for meatheads. That's like saying protein shakes are just for people who are swollen bodybuilders. No, that couldn't be further from the truth. Go to your local gym. Matter of fact, just look at yourself. Most of you aren't a bodybuilder. Yet you go to the gym, you track your protein, you track your calories, and you're pretty consistent. So does that mean that the gym is only for those type of people? No. When you go to the gym, there's plethora of people who show up, lift weights, exercise, and guess what? Everybody's not there to have muscles on muscles on muscles. Some people are there because they are really focused on trying to lose weight. For some people, they're there because they're trying to get their mental health in line. For some people, it's a way for them to get out the house, release some steam. It's been a long day, right? And so saying dating apps are just for hookups, we can't even take that same level of generalization and put that to everywhere else. That's like saying going to church is just for Christians. Last time I checked, the church is a hospital. At least how they paint it, at least how it's supposed to be. The church and going to church isn't just for believers and Christians. So many people who are supposed to be available to come in and worship and experience a God who is present in the home, in the sanctuary, walking up and down the aisles, all the things. So just like we wouldn't say the gym is just for meatheads, church is just for Christians, the store are just for people who know how to cook, why would we then assume dating apps are just for hookups? And this is where the oversimplification really, really starts to stick out. And what I'm bringing you into, as I hope you're seeing, is a level of nuance to just sit and think. Just sit down and think for a second. This is not to get you to use them or to not use them. Everyone else to each their own, right? But I think we should be able to make these decisions at least from a healthier place and at least know why we're making the decision. And at least know why. Okay. So the first problem, dating apps are just for hookups. Okay. What we just solved, man, that logic doesn't really fit everywhere else. Let's look at problem number 2. Why are dating apps such an issue? I want you to put this in the chat. If you're watching on TikTok, I appreciate you a ton. If you're watching over on YouTube, thank you so much. Instagram, shout out to you. Okay. Problem number 2. All right. Nobody is serious on there. Put one in the chat if you've been on dating apps or you've been in the dating realm, dating space, and one of the conclusions you came to was saying nobody is serious out here or specifically on dating apps on there. Okay? Just drop a 1 in the chat. If that's a statement you've made, a thought you've had, or you know someone who's experienced that. Nobody is serious out here in these dating streets. Nobody is serious on dating apps. Okay? If that's you, let's talk about it. Because what we have to understand is that even though this is a statement that is made, and many people may agree, man, nobody's really serious out here. Nobody's really looking. Nobody's really wanting what I want. Nobody wants nothing serious. We hear all those overgeneralized statements. Okay. If you don't believe me, just go on TikTok and search up dating story times. I'm sure not only are a bunch of story times going to come up, some that will make you laugh, some that'll make you feel frustrated, some that'll make you feel sad, some that are positioned in various different directions. But if there's a common saying that oftentimes many people will say, nobody is really out here moving with faithful. Where are all the yearners at? Where are all the people that commit? Where are all the, and it's crazy because we only make these assumptions based off of the few people we've experienced that went south. Not from everybody, but just from the few people that we've experienced and those experiences that didn't really go out so well. Okay. So the idea that nobody is serious, whether on dating apps or just in dating in general, sounds extremely wise, sounds extremely relatable, but here's the problem. It's dressed in fear. Okay. And anything that is dressed in fear comes from lack, not from abundance. Would you type that in the chat? Anything that comes from fear comes from lack, not from abundance. Now, of course, I'm not going in the direction of legitimate fears that you may experience, for example, seeing a bear in the middle of the road. Okay, don't go that far. But what we're talking about in the context of dating and relationships, the breakups, the rejections, the ghostings, the failings, people who swiped and matched and nothing happened of it, somebody you met in person, you got their number and it didn't fluctuate, you met them at church and now it didn't work out, whatever the case is, anything that is coming from a place of fear is ultimately oftentimes coming from a place of lack, not abundance. And let's actually talk about why this is dressed up as fear and not actual wisdom. Okay. Crazy. Ain't that crazy, Shanae? Man, it's tough, ain't it? All around. Okay. But here's what's interesting. I love what Shanae said in the TikTok comment section. She's like, hey, met a nice Christian guy one time who lived right in my apartment complex. Here's what's crazy. People who will consistently tell themselves that nobody is out there. No one wants anything serious. No one wants anything real. No one wants anything intentional. People who will tell themselves all day, every day that men are trash. There's no good men out. There's no good men left. All the good men are married. All the different things that we'll repeat to ourselves. They wouldn't even put themselves in position to see what you saw. Right? Because when we're talking about just, and I'm not trying to get too deep into some things, but when we're talking about what we see and what we experience in our everyday, okay? Like these things are severely impacted by the life and reality that we actually experience. So if you're living in a state, Okay, when you talk about your state, just your living being. When we're talking about your state, all right. If you're at a survival paradigm where all you think about is lack, shame, guilt, okay, anger, resentment that's running through your body, okay, from previous experiences that you have not healed, okay, it is not going to be probable that you find someone or look up and see someone that maybe makes sense for you because all you're focused on is what you're without, what hasn't happened, and what's hurting, which is not a sign that the problem is external. The sign is that we need to turn the mirror on ourselves and reflect inwardly. Okay. So it's just like, fam, you probably wouldn't even see him. Okay. On a dating app, all the things, right? You probably would not have seen him if all that we were focused on was how bad things were, how awful men are, and all the things. Of course, I'm not saying that's you, Shanae. But of course, when it comes to the overarching experiences on dating, that's the general consensus. You get on social media and you hear people talk about how bad dating is left and right. Well, of course, no wonder the dates have looked real shallow. No wonder, because we don't even put ourselves in positions to see the beauty that comes out of these things. We only focus on lack. So when we talk about nobody is serious on there or nobody is serious out here, all right, and using those terminologies, okay, like I said, it sounds wise. It's really fear. And what happened is you really met someone that was unserious. You met someone that was unqualified, and you met unhealed people. Because here's the thing, we can be honest. I think somebody made a great comment in the first stream that we had that dating apps can present as a low barrier of entry. It's not a whole lot of effort somebody has to put in order to get themselves on a dating app to be seen. Very true. Very true. And even though my response at the time was, hey, like low effort and low energy is everywhere, right? You're not going to be able to escape the low maintenance or the low barrier of entry everywhere you go. But this is the beauty in acknowledging and seeing how low the barrier of entry is the fact that I don't have to abide by the low entry standards. This is why we take the power back by being able to create healthier standards for our lives because I am the one that's in control of who gets access to me. What you allow is what you give access to, and what you give access to is what you can control. You know what I'm saying? So this is the direction that we have the ability to move in. And this is a very, very serious thing because as we're slowly breaking this down, we're coming to a crux of what really the problem is. Maybe you already see it. If so, great on you. Stick with me because this is going to make sense after a while. All right. What you did was you actually met unserious, unqualified, and unhealed people and decided to lump the few with the all. Okay. And here's the real truth, y'all. Okay. Because again, it's not about trying to eliminate the amount of people that you're going to encounter that aren't really healthy. Okay. Like I said before, I think en route of you finding the right person, the right spouse, the right individual, you're gonna experience a lengthy of people and relationships that don't necessarily make sense. It's part of the game. Okay. I hate to break the news to you. Part of your dating experience is gonna be rejection. Part of you finding somebody that makes sense for you is putting yourself in position to be seen only for them to say no. Part of the experience is going to be for you to have your capacity challenged and tested. You're not going to get away from it. So the real question isn't necessarily, or the real challenge isn't necessarily, well, how can I avoid rejection? Because I think if you go into the dating scene and the dating experience constantly trying to avoid rejection or limiting the amount of risks, okay, not only do you step into overthinking, but you don't move. You don't move. So instead of trying to control what we can't control, how about we just control how we view it and how we experience it? How about we control how we actually navigate through it and emotionally regulate so we can get to a place where even if those things happen, we'll still be okay. That's the whole purpose of us going through all of this. Not so that we can change the external, but so that we can actually allow our internal world to challenge and navigate through the external all day, every day. Okay. So the game is not to minimize the rejections. The game is not to minimize the ghostings. The game is not to rid of that. That stuff is going to happen. The game is to build your confidence to recover. So your confidence to recover is greater than your fear of failure. Would you write that down? I feel like I'm giving so much free game in just these last like 20 minutes. It's crazy. Your confidence to recover needs to be greater than your fear of failure. And I'm about to tell you how you get that. Your confidence to recover needs to be greater than your fear of failure. And your confidence to recover is not solely dependent on waiting on God to come and deal with you or with that which you're experiencing. Your confidence to recover oftentimes is going to come with the capacity God has given you already to handle that which you're experiencing. And it's through breathing, it's through regulating, it's actually through taking ownership and not deflecting your issues to everyone else around you. Your confidence to recover has to be greater than your fear of failure. How do we get that, Coach? I'm glad you asked. How do we get that? Because it's actually going to be centered on this one statement. Okay? Your confidence to recover becomes greater than your fear of failure. Okay? When you recognize that what you've been through before is the worst it possibly can get. You've already been ghosted. You've already been rejected. You've already experienced a breakup. You've already experienced a heartache pain from somebody walking out of your life. And one of the beautiful things about building this sense of confidence is recognizing that you've been through something similar before. You've been through a set of pain and experience something similar before. This is not your first rodeo. This is not your first time. This is not your first heartbreak. This is not your first pain. This is not your first loss. And that doesn't mean that we welcome more of it, but it gives us a great sharp reminder that I got over that then, that God brought us through then, that God healed and recovered us then. And because he was able to do that then, I'm able to step into more of what's available for me now. I went through that rejection. I went through all that. Cool. I regulated. I learned my lessons. I recovered all the things. And now I'm going to put myself in a position to experience something again. Because here's the thing. You're not going to be able to experience the love that everybody's waiting for marriage to have. Everybody loves quoting 1 Corinthians 13. Shout out to Coach Reese in the building. Thank you so much, my guy. Love your content. You've been doing amazing things, man. Appreciate you a ton. Like everybody is waiting for, oh, I just want to experience that 1 Corinthians 13 kind of love, that Ephesians 5 kind of love for all my believers out there. Let me tell you something. Ain't nobody trying to experience that with you when you don't have the wherewithal to want to experience that for yourself and live up to what God's calling you to be today. You waiting for somebody to fill in a gap in you that you're unwilling to take and play a participant role in building in yourself. You want somebody else to be patient with you, and you're not patient with you. You want somebody else to be patient with you, and you're not patient with others. You want somebody else to be everything that you are not able to be for you. And guess what that creates? Codependency, not co-regulation, not full secure connection. That creates codependency. And when we have codependency, you're not able, you lose yourself in the midst of connecting with that, with those that you're around. That's what you do. You lose yourself. You lose yourself. And codependency, which leads into some form of enmeshment, does not create a satisfying relationship. It creates a relationship where both of you are drained and neither one of you know how to come back to that which is full, to a place of abundance. Neither one of you. So your confidence to recover in a lot of ways is rebuilt when you're able to look back on that which you've experienced and said, man, we got through that though. There was a time in my life where I did not think I was going to get through that. And I got through it. Y'all, there was some rejections and ghostings that I've experienced in my life. I did not think I was going to get through. Boo-hoo crying. Boy, I was folded. I was folded. But one of the things that I kept reminding myself as tears rolled, as values were being reshaped, as I had to start being intentional with gratitude and setting time in my day to experience that which I'm already around and I'm already in, which is full of abundance. I kept reminding myself that something good is going to come out of this. I didn't know what exactly that good was at the time, but I had to remind myself of that. And when I did, things began to shift because I refused to continue to surround myself in a situation where I was harping so much on who left that I wasn't willing to do the work to get myself back. Because truth is, before they left me, I left me. God. Ah! Before they left me, I left me. I left me. I wasn't willing to stick in alignment with what I already knew, with who I was, with the healing work I had already done. I was willing to give it all and losing myself and my sanity in the process. And it happened through various of different experiences. But y'all, I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff, especially when it comes to dating and dating healthily, whether you're doing it through a dating app or you're meeting people in person, things can shift for you if you're willing to not just stop blaming the external for where you are, but also be able to realize that if you have the confidence to recover, you're not too concerned about when you fall. And that comes through intentional work and healing, alignment. When you stop allowing your emotions and heart to take the wheel, but you allow your thoughts to be where your emotions are filtered through. I don't allow my emotions to tell my thoughts what to think. I allow my thoughts to tell my emotions how to feel. So when there's direction in that space, now it doesn't mean that I'm absent of feeling. It just means that I'm going to course correct my feelings to come back into agreement with that which I believe. In the moment of the rejection, the heartbreak, you probably may have a thought. Man, these girls ain't about nothing. Man, these men are trash. And I'm going to let you have it. I ain't going to shut that down. But how do we come back into an agreement with what we believe when we allow ourselves to feel that, but we don't stay there? Because we know this was just a limited experience. This is not the experience we should expect to have with everybody. Well, coach, how do you deal with that when every experience you've had has been a reflection of the previous? That's a great question. My simple answer, regulate and come back into alignment. Regulate and come back into alignment, because without the piece of alignment, okay, we cannot actually be able to discern that which we're seeing. We just can't. Regulate and come back into alignment, because now if all you've experienced is toxic relationship after toxic relationship, what's the common denominator of that? You. You. Am I saying you are bringing this upon yourself? Am I saying that you're the problem? Sure. I'm also saying because you recognize that part of you are playing part of the role of the problem, you also are part of the solution. You are also part of the solution. Because some of you like to carry this bravado like you're doing all the right things and somehow still getting the wrong person. And I highly doubt that. And that isn't to say that you are what you attract. I don't really believe that fully. Okay, this doesn't go into the conversation of you are what you attract. If you have had nothing but toxic people, that means you're toxic. No, no, no. No, no, no. If you've ever had a metal detector, this is a conversation that I've had with plenty of clients before. If you've ever had a metal detector or aware of a metal detector, it doesn't just pick up on gold, pennies, money. It also picks up on trash. It also picks up on bottle caps. It also picks up on things that are under the sand and dirt that actually aren't really of value to you because it's not what you're looking for. So when you're healed, you most certainly can attract somebody who is not as healed. That doesn't mean you're not healed. This is what it does mean. I get the leverage to see through all of the jaded, all through the colored lenses. This actually ain't something that's for me. And I'm confident in being able to make that decision because of the healing work and effort it's taken for me to get to where I am. and come back into alignment and agreement with what I want, where I am, and who God's calling me to be, and what this relationship really looks like. Am I making sense so far? Put a one in the chat if this is making sense so far. Okay. We cannot keep playing this game of blaming the external for things that we are unwilling to acknowledge and address internally. It's not the dating apps that are the issue as we claim them to be. It's unhealed people we're coming across. And on top of that, you yourself may not necessarily be healed. If you're honest, you got on that dating app and you got back on Instagram to shoot your shot, send messages, slide up on stories, and say whatever because you were looking for validation. You were heartbroken over somebody who told you no, and you, instead of sitting with it because sitting alone with it wasn't what you wanted, wasn't the answer for you, you went and found someone else. You went and found someone else because misery loves company. You went and found someone else and you decided to lean on your attachments as reasons to connect. When really you didn't attach from places of abundance, you attached from wounds. You didn't attach from healthiness, you attached from things that hurt you. You use that person as a product instead of seeing them as the person with intentionality, purpose, direction, value that they have that you could have created the relationship from a lot better. You know what's so interesting about doing this healing work is that eventually you get to a place where when you start doing the healing work, it's going to interrupt a lot of the things that you thought you created from healthiness when you realize it was a bad, poor foundation you started building that mug on. It's a very unique experience. A lot of people love doing this. A lot of people love to say they're doing this work until it causes you to separate from that which you started poorly with. Because when you get some clarity on some things, you realize I actually connected to you, not because I was okay with myself, but because I was afraid of myself. So every time that you love me, I get mad because I don't love me the way you love me. Mm-mm. 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 This ain't. I don't think this. I don't think this is the type of conversation. I gotta slow down. I hope I'm making sense. Put a one in the chat if this is making sense, because this is something that we have to understand if we're really trying to maximize our dating experiences and doing relationships in a healthy way. We have to understand some of these things. It's not the app. It ain't the Facebook, the Instagram. It's you, fam. The meanings you're attributing to it, the behaviors you're attributing to it, and not being curious enough to understand where that's coming from and deal with it and address it as it comes. Okay. So this is a line that I want you to write down because we're still on the problem two, and we're going to speed through the last three that are probably more relatable. All right. But when we're talking about nobody is serious on there, that's not true. Just the people you dealt with that aren't serious. And so the truth is anything that's that now here's what you have to recognize. Anything that's wanted seriously requires considerably more effort and diligence to find and create. Put that in the chat. This is next level conversation. Anything that's wanted seriously requires considerably more effort and diligence to find and create. There's a reason why everybody who said they wanted to go pro didn't go pro. There's a reason why everybody who said they were ready to go play pro football, basketball, and everything in between didn't make it. You're talking to somebody who had a dream and idea of doing that too, didn't make it. Because as levels increased, the seriousness, the development, the work, the effort, the sacrifice grew further, because you are not going to be able to maintain a specific level in life trying to continuously recycle old habits. You might have been able to get away with a 30-minute shoot around before school started in high school. But when you get to college and you want some minutes, you're going to have to put in a little bit more effort. Those 30 minutes were really a warm up. You're going to need about 90 minutes or so, and that's generous. That still might be cheating the system. Because what once worked then don't work now. Anything that you want seriously requires more diligence and effort. There's a reason why not everybody is an entrepreneur. There's a reason why not everybody is building their own business. Because if it was easy, everybody do it. Here's the breaking news. Everybody ain't healing like they say they are. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. If it was easy, everybody be doing it. But the hard things require just a little bit more attention, intentionality, diligence, effort. And guess what? Endurance. Finding what you really want, creating that which you really want to build is going to require a little bit more endurance. It's going to take that. It's not going to be something that just falls in front of your face. It's not going to be something that's just going to come knocking on the door. Somebody's going to bump in their way to the hallway. Like, nah, fam. This is going to take intentionality. And what other better way to move intentionally, right? Than to actually put yourself in position to be seen and connect with people and not be so afraid of time being wasted, rejections being experienced, someone you don't know ghosting you, causing you to derail the rest of your life, the rest of your relationships, the rest of your summer. We have to realize that the key to dating successfully in any direction is going to be based on the internal world you're creating. And with this internal world is the ability to move in a stronger level of endurance. Because anything that's worth having is worth fighting for. Anything that's worth building is worth fighting for. Okay? So truth is, anything that's wanted seriously requires considerably more effort and diligence to find and create. And that includes your person. So all these thoughts and beliefs that, well, if it's from God, it's supposed to be easy. I don't know who told you that. But you can take that onto seat 32C with them cold peanuts in the back of the plane, because that ain't it. And I that ain't it. That ain't it. I don't know where in the world, if you read your Bible closely from Genesis to Revelation, where you see that. I want my Ruth. I want my Boaz. And that ain't even the point of the book. But here you go. Right? Here you go. So we have to get to a realization, y'all. We have to get to a realization. Anything that is seriously desired is going to take more considerable effort. And you're going to have to put yourself in position. You're going to have to put yourself in position, not just to be seen, but to endure. And endurance does not mean it's all going to be rainbows and everything else, man. Sometimes you're going to come across some duds, but you got to come across some duds in order to find the right one. Imagine being somebody who is a hiring manager getting thousands of applications a day for a role at your job. Do you really believe that all 1,000 of those applicants are valid applicants? No. I'm not saying you got to go through all 1,000, but I am saying a healthy expectation is to come into that room and office and realize that what I was looking for, I'm gonna have to get through a few duds before I find the person that actually makes sense to give a call back. When there's a basketball tryout, a sport tryout, bam. Not everybody at that tryout is going to hoop. There's going to be some duds in there. But I got to have the willingness and the ability to discern what I need for my team so I know, oh my God, this is so good. So I know who I want to add. Some of y'all are so focused on everything else but being the right coach for your team. Your team needs you, and here you are, just giving anybody and everybody a pass and a welcome. No, no, no. When we're talking about dating, these are tryouts. These are tryouts, man. We have to vet. It's a tryout. And for some of us, that tryout is the beginning conversation just to see what's here. What's the temperature? And instead of us immediately giving out numbers when I first encounter you or match with you or whatever the case is, hey, let's actually peel it back a little bit So the conversation's been going a little bit more regularly. I'm noticing I'm a little excited to respond to your messages. So you know what? Here's my number. Let's actually do a FaceTime. We're not gonna go on a physical date yet, but let's do a FaceTime. Vetting, because anything that you vet takes time. And there's some things, the more that you grow in vetting, the more quicker you're going to realize somebody don't match with you. Somebody really don't align with you. It don't really make sense. I can see it from a mile away that this ain't something I really want to invest in. It don't take months. It don't take years to make a decision. Sometimes it just take a moment. I see where this is going. We have to be able to build the muscle of discerning and vetting that which we see. And a lot of us aren't there yet. A lot of us don't want to be there because we would rather God make all the decisions. And that's why you still single, praying in your prayer closet and ain't found nobody, because you don't go nowhere and because you want God to do it all. How's that work? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. How does that work? How does that work? I'm here for it all. All right. So that's the first two problems. Okay. Let's get rid of this idea that nobody is serious on there. Let's get rid of this idea that dating apps are just for hookups, because we don't apply that same logic anywhere else. Okay. I'm going to speed through these last few, so I'm running out of time. All right. But I hope this is making sense so far. And I hope it's challenging some of you guys' thinking, not just to the dating apps, but if you get it, towards dating in general. Okay. Towards dating in general. There's a lot of pressure that you're going to take off your back just from this one conversation tonight, or this evening, or this afternoon, whenever you're watching. That's actually going to be beneficial for you in your dating. Okay. Now, I'm going to transition because I need a breather. All right. So, problem 3, okay, is the following statement. And I want you to put this in the chat. Maybe you've said it. Maybe you've thought it. And if it's not just to the dating apps, it's to the upgrade of dating apps. It's to the upgrade of, certain apps that you can use to maximize your ability on there. And it's the idea that dating apps are desperate. Okay. Whether you are downloading a dating app, you've upgraded a dating app, it's desperate. Desperate energy. Okay. If you're awake and alive in the chat, I want you to type desperate. What's up, Bryce, over there on Instagram? Good to see you. Type desperate in the comment section. Desperate, 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 desperate. Well, what's desperate? I'm glad you asked, because I think that's a good space to kind of open up a beginning conversation to desperation and what actually makes engaging in these things desperate. Okay. So I'm going to define desperate, and I'm actually going to use a little bit of a custom definition just to bring it to some level of simplicity. Okay. And again, the goal to take some pressure off of you, so you're not walking around thinking you're worse than, or you're for the streets because you decided to get on a dating app and try it out. Okay. Desperate defined. Okay. This is just a little bit of a custom definition. Okay. If you look it up, you probably won't find it in this direction. However, I do think this is a simplistic understanding of what desperation in and of itself feels like and looks like in an everyday experience. So if I were to define desperate to a client, I would say this: a conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want and need. Long definition, long-winded definition, but I'll give it to you again. A conditional state, okay, that's really important. A conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want to need. Okay. I remember one time, this is a great example and maybe a little quick story time on desperation. I'll be really quick because I got to fly through these. When I was, what was this? This might have been coming off of COVID. Maybe this was after COVID. I don't remember. But I did a tournament with my bros. We went and did a basketball tournament at one of these local gym places, and it was a money tournament, all the things. And that first game, your boy balled out. First game, it was cool. It was great. Okay. Dunking, all the things. And in that first game, I'm pretty sure it was toward the end of it, because your boy just wasn't having enough fluids, all the things. I started cramping real bad. Okay, I mean my legs and calves. I think it was actually on a dunk. Okay, it was like on a fast break dunk, and I dunked the ball, scored the basket, everything. We were whooping this team, and as I was hanging on the rim, I noticed, man, my leg was just like tightening up, and I was like, I do not know how I'm gonna get down from here because this is not looking good, and my calf muscle, like one of them. I don't even know how. I don't even know what I could use to give an example. Like it just wrapped up and like it just tightened. It was over. I was cooked. I was cooked. Okay, cooked. And I came off of that rim gently on my right leg. Okay, thankfully because I'm tall enough, it wasn't that far of a long jump. And I laid down gracefully as I was yelling in pain because my calf was not having it. And I remember at that point in time, not having enough water. I didn't bring enough water with me. And there's certain things that your boy just ain't gonna consume, uh, whether it's a cramp or just on a regular day. Okay. And pickle juice is one of them. Okay. Now, in my time, brief time in kinesiology, learning certain things that could calm cramps, pickle juice was one of them. Okay. I didn't have no water. And they was like, "Yo, fam, like, all right, we got you some pickle juice. We couldn't find no mustard or nothing, but we got you some pickle juice." And I'm over there cramping. I'm down bad, real bad, Michael Jackson bad. It's awful. And I looked at them with the straight face and said, "I'd rather fold. I'd rather fold than to drink this pickle juice. That is the awful, awful, just god awful. I would much rather fold and cramp up everywhere else than to consume this pickle juice." And that I did because we had a few games after that. I couldn't move. My quads was cramping. All the cramps just started moving up everywhere. And eventually I was out. I was out of there. Okay. Had to get some more water, purchase some more water later on. Had to get some massage guns, all the things. I did it. I stood on business. Your boy was hurting. It was a rough day. I say all that to say, though, is that in moments of pain, what seems not what seems really bad, what's really nasty, what's not favorable, okay, desired, when in pain, all of a sudden, not only for a lot of us becomes an option, but when in pain becomes something that will actually consume and devour because the pain is greater in our minds than what we're actually standing for that is perhaps creating the pain. Okay. Now, in this small example, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily want to die on the hill that you ain't drinking no pickle juice. I mean, maybe if you're me, I'm not a big fan of pickle juice. I'll throw up. Like, it's bad. Okay. It's bad. And maybe you're not necessarily somebody who's thinking of it that deep. But I want you to think of this in the bigger picture, y'all. Pain is something that we all experience. And whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, we can oftentimes try to fulfill those things through physical pleasure, emotional pleasure, and even if the pain is great enough, go the length to do something, consume something, have something that we would never settle for when we are healed, when we're in a healthy lane, when we're in a lane of clarity, when we're in a lane of great decision making, stronger decision making. And I am afraid that when you say things like dating apps are desperate, okay, there are some of you who are treating it kind of like how I treated that pickle juice. It ain't bad, but I ain't going there, right? It ain't bad, but I ain't going there. But here's the thing that I really want you to consider is that just because you're in pain doesn't necessarily make a certain decision as desperate as you paint it to be. Sometimes, what you're calling desperate isn't a reflection of a healthy decision. It's a reflection of malnourishment. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. Okay. What you're calling desperate is oftentimes not necessarily a reflection of pain. Okay. Or a reflection of healthiness, I should say. That's what I said. Healthiness. It's a reflection of malnourishment. Okay. Because in order for us to look at dating apps as a form of desperation, remember the definition: a conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want and need. We have decided to label the entirety of dating apps as desperate when in reality, the real desperations comes from the unhealed lenses and pains you've never healed from. Because you would not be in desperate positions if it had not been for pains you've experienced. But in this particular direction, to call dating apps desperate is real shaky because you're actually limiting yourself from experiencing what you really desire and you're dressing it up as something that's noble when in reality it's just you being stubborn. In reality, it might just be you not knowing much of what you're looking for, knowing much of what you want, coming into agreement and alignment with what you need, and making a healthy decision from a lens of clarity. Can I tell you what's truly desperate? Instead of looking at dating apps as desperation, how about this? Over attaching to someone you don't know. How about clinging to outcomes? Hmm. How about using the app to seek external validation? How about crashing out over rejection? Hmm. How about forcing connections with misalignment? How about posting thirst traps as profile photos? Everything else that I just listed is more of a reflection of desperation than the dating app itself. Because what we're choosing to do from a place of pain, lack in us, is we're choosing to go on these apps, go on these places, these social medias, make connections out of fear of missing out, all to prove a point that you belong, that you're enough, that you can be loved, that you can be wanted, that you're desired, and constantly trying to prove your worth to people. But realize how you've been doing all of that and a dating app ain't been in sight. Notice how you've been doing all of that. And if a dating app has been in sight, it wasn't the dating app that made it desperate. It was the intentionality and lack you move from that made it desperate. Because instead of moving intentionally and maximizing the effort, you decided to not just stay on the free plans and stay on these things. You decided to just match with whoever. Sounds more like that is desperation to me than the actual external experience of what's shared on the app. So, what's truthfully intentional? Things like maximizing your effort, being in the present, and moving from abundance, not performing for it. Those are the things that can change the game. Those are the things that can make the difference. Saying dating apps are full of desperation is missing the bigger picture. Because what's really a reflection of desperation isn't the place to go to actually connect. The real act of desperation is the lack in which someone is moving from. That instead of reflecting inward through self awareness and honesty, we would rather push out. And we would rather make everybody else and everything else the issue. Do you notice how some people might get into the habit of calling something ugly, desperate, shameful, weak? Not because it actually is, but because they themselves don't really know exactly how to engage with it to the healthiest degree. You ever met somebody who calls emotions weak, who calls emotions and the ability to be in tune with one's emotions as something that is small, that lacks, that is just, makes you, dealing with emotions, who has time for that? It's not because emotions are weak. It's because you don't know how to trust yourself enough to handle the emotions you're running from. Is that more of a dating issue? Is that more of a partner issue? Is that more of other people issue? Or is that more of a me issue? I probably would say it's more of a me issue. Because we have to be able to reflect on inwardly and be curious. Where does this idea of these things being desperate really come from for you? What is desperate exactly about a dating app? Is everybody on a dating app? Is everybody on a dating app that bad? Or is it just the people that you've matched with? Because you got tired, and because you got tired, you decided to give yourself fast food instead of a nutritious meal. You decided to settle for something that was never in alignment, and then got the nerve to blame the entirety of the environment and system because of the choice you made that came from places of malnourishment and pain, not from places of stability, healthiness, and abundance. Interesting. So all I'm saying is the real desperation is not necessarily so much from what you're engaging in as it relates to the dating app or the lack thereof, the usage of it, things of that sort. The real desperation comes from what posture are you moving from inwardly? What posture are you moving from inwardly? Okay? Is this making sense? Y'all ready for the last two? I want to give the last two and we can get going. Put one in the chat if you're ready for the last two. Okay? Because this is going to be really good. We're going to finish this up. And then we're going to come back for part 4 and answer another question that I think is really, really important. Now, these aren't all the issues. These aren't all the problems. Okay? I definitely don't want to paint it as if these are the only ones. But in my work, these have been more of the common thoughts, okay, that are shared within the conversation of dating apps. Okay? Let me also say this just for the record. let me also say this as a record. A secure person, because we're talking about moving in security, okay, becoming secure. Okay, go ahead and check out that website. Get your free relational diagnostic and attachment styles at the top of my page on all socials. It'll be linked in the description for YouTube. A secure person can use a dating app without being desperate. A secure person can use a dating app without being desperate. An insecure person can meet someone at church and still act desperate. Because desperation has less to do with a location, has everything to do with a heart posture. Desperation has less to do with a location, more to do with a heart posture, more to do with your mental and emotional approach, more to do with how you're choosing to navigate and engage with what's in front of you. Some of y'all ain't never been on a dating app and more desperate than people who are on dating apps. How that work? Matter of fact, some of y'all are more desperate and claim that the dating apps ain't of God, and yet got the nerve to say somebody who's married is of God for you. What? Boy, y'all on crack and dog food at the same time. How can you sit up here and say with a straight face that God told you somebody else was your husband and wife, and yet and got the nerve to say God told you that, and at the same time look at somebody who's on a dating app and say, "Ooh, you desperate, you putting yourself on a sales rack." Who's more on a sales rack? Somebody who's choosing to look for somebody who's available, or you? Because it sounds like to me there's a little bit of a mix up. There's a little bit of a mix up. I say it with love. I got a lot of love for y'all. But some of the y'all would be so surprised. Some of the craziest stuff. Some of the craziest stuff. And it just don't match up. It don't match up. It really don't match up. It's crazy you calling folk on dating apps desperate. And yet the person you with got multiple baby daddies and baby mamas in different sections of the whole entire country. And you was like, I guess I'll just take it. Crazy. All right. All right. All right. I'm done. I just think it's just interesting. I just think it's interesting. Okay. The tool isn't desperate. Okay. My relationship with the tool reveals whether I am grounded or not. Okay. I want y'all to write that down. And y'all don't run away and take this stuff personal and all this stuff. Of course, if you got children, you're just as available for relationships as well. Okay. I just note that some of the craziness y'all may say that comes out of y'all mouth and at the same time calls something else desperate, dysfunctional, all the things, and yet don't turn a mirror to your own experiences and get in alignment. Somebody has to say it. I guess I will. Let's get aligned. Let's become aware of some things. Let's be honest about what we're seeing and what we're experiencing and do better because we can. Okay. The tool is not desperate. Your relationship with the tool reveals whether you are grounded or not. Okay. And that goes for anything. If that's not just for dating apps, apply that in your life. Money and the need for money isn't desperate. Money and the need for money is not the root of all evil. Scripture says the love for money. But when we see money as a tool, it doesn't mean you're desperate. It means you have a healthy relationship with it. Okay? Being in the gym, taking care of your body, all these things, that's not an act of desperation. Your relationship with these things is what really speaks volumes. Okay? So I hope this is making sense. Let's close this out. All right. So we got a couple more things that I want to give to y'all. All right. We went through those first three problems. I'm going to go through problem 4 and 5, and we're going to have a landing pad. Okay. I'm going to give you these two. Problem 4, if it's meant to be, it will happen naturally. Okay. Man, I've had so many conversations with people in these spaces who I've coached, men and women. Fam, I just think it's better if I meet them naturally. I just think it's better if I meet them naturally. And again, I'm not against that, right? I'm not against that. But let's not use that. I just want us to be understanding of what we're saying oftentimes when we say that, okay? And why it's waiting. I love it, Shanae. Yeah, next thing you know, you're 45 and single, talking about waiting for it to happen naturally, okay? Especially to some of you who use this and then y'all actually don't go out anywhere. This is really who it's for. Like, y'all use these terminologies and don't go out. You don't go to the store no more. You got everything door dashed. You got everything Instacarted. You don't even go shopping no more. You don't go to the gym. The only thing you do is go to work and go to church. Ain't got the nerve to say it'll happen naturally. And you're not even putting yourself in positions to be seen. Introducing yourself to have conversations. Come on. If it's meant to be, it will happen naturally, right? Because it sounds spiritual, right? It sounds like it's godly, but really, I really do believe in a lot of ways it's passive. And it can be covered up as passive language. Okay? Because you use natural to avoid effort. Well, if I just bump them into the store, if I bump into them at the mall, I'll say something. I think for a lot of you, you might say that. And then when push comes to shove and you have an opportunity to introduce yourself, you don't. Your head is down. You're not too confident, very shy, very fearful. And I think it's okay to be honest about that, but let's be honest about the whole picture. Okay? You want love, in all honesty, to happen without risk, rejection, maximizing all efforts. You want things to happen with ease. And I'm telling you that these things don't happen with ease. There is no relationship that is cultivated through the lens of ease. I think we should get rid of this expectation that relationships must be easy for it to be from God. because I just think that's a struggling aspect to consider in relationships. Now, that is not to say that you also should be, in a relationship where y'all are having blow up arguments every day within the first few weeks of knowing each other or a few months of knowing each other. That's different, right? We're not suggesting that that's okay. But what we are saying is that we should expect to have some turbulence. Turbulence ought to be expected in relationships. We're talking about two cultures, two worlds, two different people coming together and trying to build something together. Anything that requires effort requires time, requires endurance, and also requires struggle because we have two imperfect people who are coming together to build something. Okay. And so if it's meant to be, it will happen naturally. Oftentimes, a lot of you are saying, I want love without risk. I want love without rejection. I want to experience something without putting myself in Front Street to be embarrassed, to be ashamed, okay, to experience an awkwardness, profile building. Man, that's just too much time. Messaging, dates, disappointments. You're thinking about all this process that you're still putting in if you were to do it in person. Okay. And I think if we're being honest, sometimes we're using some religious language and we're trying to wrap it up and make it sound real good. So that way it avoids us from experiencing certain things that we would experience regardless, in dating areas. Okay. And truth is, something can be intentional and still be God led. Can y'all put that in the chat? Something can still be intentional and still be God led, which means I can still put myself in position to, whether that's download an app, reach out, send a message, initiate a conversation. I can do all those things and it be intentional and it still be God led, not necessarily because a God told me energy, but because I'm willing to reflect the heart of Christ in everything I do. It's God led because I'm loving God and loving people, honoring God and honoring people. It's God led because I'm filled with abundance, not because I'm needing to do this for performative reasons. Intentional and God led. Okay. Instead of us waiting for these relationships to hop and fall out the sky on our front door, let's move intentionally. We love to talk about Ruth and Boaz, but Ruth and Boaz would have never happened if Ruth would not have been in a position to intentionally go and check out the grains in the field. And Boaz being there to look up and be intentional about what he saw. Intentionality. Intentionality. Okay. Let's not move with this. If it's meant to be, it will happen naturally. Now, here's another meaning behind that statement that isn't necessarily correlated to experiencing dating apps and things of that sort. And it's just the fact of the flow of the relationship. Okay. I do still think that intentionality matters, but also understand too, when we're moving in healthy relationships, we can allow these things to flow. Right. That doesn't mean that we don't know what we are. We're afraid of titles and commitment. No. We're intentional. That's why I said intentionality. But when we're talking about letting relationships grow, let's stop forcing it to be a certain thing by a certain time. Let's stop forcing experiences and let's actually just let them happen naturally. We don't need to be married today, but let's enjoy the conversation and be present with each other as we are. We don't need to be in a hurry. We don't need to be closed door. No. Let's just be in the present. Let's slow down. Okay. I think any relationship that has the genuine capacity to live, to breathe, to exist, to be healthy, it'll survive. When you plant a seed as a gardener, I believe we are all gardeners when it comes to relationships. When you plant a seed and the gardener is watering that seed, we know the roots, it first grows down before it grows up. But there's a period where that seed almost seems like it's stuck in the dirt. Well, that's because when the seed is planted and we're watering it, it goes through a period where it's got to fight through some dirt in order to actually start poking up to experience the photosynthesis in full. Okay? In full. And so this is really, really important. All right? And if it's real, it'll survive. The gardener knows the seed planted is real because it made it through the dirt season, if you will. It made it through the trial and error. It made it through the difficulty. It made it through the unseemly. It made it through all those things. So when relationships are tested in those dirt areas, we know it's real because we'll make it through. Not on chance, not on something random, but through intentionality. Showing up, doing the work on ourselves and for one another, with one another. Okay? All right. Last one. Okay? And it is just the idea of too many options. Okay? There are too many options, nobody commits. Okay? And even though I can understand that's partly true, okay, this is the biggest thing that I want you to see is that apps, even though they create perceived abundance, okay, people can start believing there is always someone better one swipe away. And even though the app may create options, character determines commitment. Would you write that down? It's the last thing I got. Even though the app creates options, character determines commitment. You got options everywhere. And someone once said you're only as good as your options. I get to see the limit, the level of your character by how many options you have and your willingness to still commit. Commit to what? Commit to your values. Commit to who's in front of you. Commit to who's choosing you. Y'all act like options are only shown through dating apps. No, options are shown everywhere. Okay? So here's where I stand in engaging with this is that the app creates access, okay? It's a beginning step. It's an initiator, but maturity determines whether access becomes a distraction or discernment. I don't have the time to go into that. But if there's one thing I'll say to it is that when you continue to develop in maturity, you recognize based off of what you're getting to learn of said person through how you met them, is this something that is fitting or is this something that I need to let go of? And that comes with time, more conversations, more intentional questions, more curiosities, the engagement that's built. We're not in a rush to get married today. But the idea of dating apps being too many options, therefore too many access, y'all act like people getting on dating apps now. Again, there are people that are doing that, but that's not everybody that's doing that on dating apps. We have to be careful with lumping the few with all. Even though there are some people who get on dating apps and go buck wild, that doesn't mean everybody is. There are some people who are being very intentional with their time, their energy, and their body. And instead of trying to hurry to certain destinations, how about we take the time to engage in conversation with one another? I think that is something that will allow us to make a better difference and a healthier decision. Okay? It's a beginning step. The apps aren't end all be all. The apps aren't supposed to be something that we just lump sum everybody into. But if you're really someone who's engaging in this and being intentional in your dating, especially in days like today, June 19, 2026, fam, the way social media has been moving, the way things have been growing, yes, there are greater chances for things to happen like AI and all that kind of stuff. But this is why we engage in levels of discernment and levels of self-awareness and levels of honesty and levels of intentionality. Every swipe means something. Every message means something. Every connection means something. And we move and carry that with us. We're not just waiting for things to happen for us. Okay? Someone with discipline can choose. Someone immature will keep browsing. If I have discipline, I'm going to make a decision. And discipline doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to make the decision to choose you. Discipline can also mean I'm going to make the decision to say no to you. And I'm going to communicate that and walk away instead of leading you on and continuing on this conversation as if something needs to continue to happen. No. No. Okay. So many options. Nobody commits. No people do commit. But your commitments are based on your character, integrity, discipline, intentionality. Okay. So all these problems that we've just listed, here's the landing place that we have, and I'm closing the string. Okay. I hope this made sense. Put one in the chat if this was helpful. The landing place with this is that with intentionality comes presence. With presence comes safety, and with safety comes availability. I want you to write that down. With intentionality comes presence. With presence comes safety. With safety comes availability. So instead of constantly looking at other people and expecting the dating pool to change, we need to actually do the internal work so that we engage with this dating pool with a different lens to have better maturity at our ability to choose from places of safety. And in order to do that, you need to ask yourself, am I safe? Am I present and present with myself? Am I aligned in my values? How intentional and directional am I? Am I honest and self aware? Okay. Am I honest and self aware? Am I honest and self aware? Am I honest with myself? Here's a definition I did not create on my own. Comes from Dr. Zeb, amazing coach, friend of mine. He defines self awareness as honesty about who you are, where you are, what you're doing at any given moment. Okay. And some of you, if you're being honest, even listening to this conversation, some of you have been going back and forth on dating apps. Should I use them? Should I not? Or just dating in general. Should I date? Should I not? And in all honesty, you aren't even in a position to make that decision because you're not healed. And I don't mean perfect. I mean doing intentional work to address the internal wounds in you that have not been addressed, that you might be running to dating to fix and solve, that isn't dating's job to fix and solve. It's okay to have a season on your own. It's okay to have a season on your own. But let's be honest about it. Okay. With intentionality comes presence. With presence comes safety. With safety comes availability. So I need you to ask yourself, are you safe? Are you present with yourself? Are you a safe person? Safe people create safe environments. Are you safe? Are you aligned in your values? Okay. For some of you, you might need to take this time as you're listening to this conversation. You might need to write down your values. What do I value? And I know there are a lot of you be like family, friends, church, God, all the things, beautiful. But if I were to layer and peel the onion back on all those things, why do I value those things? What exactly is at the core of those highlights that I deem valuable? For some of you, you might say family, but you're really saying closeness. For some of you, you say your faith. Yes, beautiful, Jesus, alignment, all the things. Okay. But there are some things that Jesus represents that you value. Obviously, everything Jesus, but maybe there's some things in this particular season that stick out to you most, like consistency, faithfulness, humility, integrity, communication, right? For some of you, you might need to take some time to ask yourself, hey, what do I need? What do I need as a man in a relationship, as a woman in a relationship? What do I need? What are some of my non-negotiables that I need to actually put down? Right? What is some of that? Okay. When we're talking about measuring safe and presence, how often do you sit in silence? What's your relationship with silence? What's your relationship with rest? What's your relationship with being curious about the things that wake up inside of you as a result of behaviors people outside of you do? Okay. When you talk about feeling safe, are you someone that always needs to fix and correct, or can you grow into a place of allowing emotions to flow without needing them to be put somewhere for you to feel better about about who you are and what God is doing in you? Right? All these things that are a little bit deeper, okay? Beginning conversations. I'm not saying you have to have it all figured out. I'm also not requiring you to be perfect to date. What I am asking you, though, is to be reflective. The whole premise of this conversation and what it boiled down to today is understanding that what we have been blaming for the dating apps has really been based on you, or obviously other people and their energy that they're bringing to the dating apps. But recognize that they don't get to set the tone. You do. You set the tone for who has access to you. You set the tone for the type of conversations you have. You set the tone based on the life you live and what you're portraying and giving access to on what's acceptable and what's not, what relationships make sense for you and what doesn't. And when you learn to move with this level of self control and leadership and tone adjustment, man, I'm telling you, I think you actually take a lot of pressure off yourself without having to limit all these other places that you can actually go and experience healthy dates and other people. No one's saying you have to get on dating apps and expose yourself to the whole world. But some of you really need to think long. And as I like to say, think wrong. Because I really do believe that part of this dilemma is that the real problems aren't really the dating apps, it's the unhealed people coming to dating apps. And if you're a healed person, it's not to say dating apps can't work for you. It just means it takes a little bit more diligence for you to find somebody who's aligned with you. If we know people are coming to these dating apps and are in unhealed positions, then we also know that even though the barrier of entry is low, it takes a little bit more effort for you to find the right person. And that is okay. That's the price we pay for healing. To whom much is given, much is required. Would you write that down? To whom much is given, much is required. So if we can be honest about that, we can make a difference. It's going to take a little bit more because you're doing the healing work. It's going to take a little bit more. It's going to take a little bit more endurance. It's going to take a little bit more of some staying power. It's going to take a little bit more effort. But as we said earlier, okay, the effort, anything that's worth building, that's sustainable, I'll say it specifically here, okay? Anything that's wanted seriously requires considerably more effort and diligence to find and create. There's nowhere else in the world where we can apply this principle that if we want it bad enough, it's just going to happen for us. No, you got to put yourself in position to fight for it. And sometimes fighting for it looks like putting yourself in position to connect with somebody and it's a rejection on the other end. You might get ghosted from somebody you didn't even meet. They matched with you and then they didn't even message you. The real question is, what's in it in us that is causing us to look at that and over identify with it, take it more personally, and react instead of allowing that to be feedback that lets us know, hey, this wasn't it. And that's cool because I'm healed and confident in my value and what I bring. This don't just work for dating apps, man. This work for people who don't use them as well. Okay, but I hope you got the premise of this conversation. The real problems in dating apps isn't, and I'll run through them again. It's not that dating apps are just for hookups. It's not that nobody is serious on there. It's not that dating apps are desperate. It's not that if it's meant to be, it will happen naturally. And it's not that there's too many options. The real problem is the inability to emotionally regulate and the inability to discern what you see, the inability to remain aligned in your values, the inability to be honest and self-aware with who you are, where you are, and what you're doing, the inability to do the healing work so you're not moving and connecting to people from attachments, the inability to be able to lead, to set the tone, and to make decisions from healthy places. That comes with clarity. That's the real problem. And this isn't about trying to change the dating pool to be more fitting for you. It's about you doing the work and making sure you're in alignment in these spaces in your life so that when you go out into the dating world, you're able to lead, set the tone, and make healthier decisions with who makes sense for you. All right. I hope that made sense. I hope that was helpful. Put a one in the chat if you got something out of this conversation. If you're watching the recording, if you are watching the replay, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to this conversation. Smaller crowd today, but I'm really, really grateful for each and every one of you. And listen, we're continuing this conversation, another layer. Not tomorrow, sometime next week. I will let you guys know when I go live. Expect it probably Monday. It'll be a little bit of a smaller one. Okay. But these conversations are really, really, really important and something that we can dive into to build on together. Okay. If you're new, and you would like to figure out, what all this is about, how to get connected, how to get a session, all the things, be sure to check out the links in the description. For those of you on YouTube, social media, Instagram, TikTok, be sure to check out the top of my page. There you'll find a link, becoming-secure.com, that you can click to get a free relational diagnostic and take a free attachment style quiz. Okay, so you can know your attachment style and how to heal from there. I have a entire secure program that's designed for you to just be able to live life and love from a place of security, removing yourself from anxious attachment, avoiding attachment, and everything in between, and getting to a place of secure attachment healthily. It's tangible, progressional, okay, just for you. So be sure to send me a message on my socials with the keyword secure, and I can get you started on that because you have a free 1 week trial available to you for the secure program. Okay. Um, and then more content on the way. Let me know how you're enjoying these lives. Okay. Um, I know that sometimes there's a fluctuating crowd across the board for some of these socials. So please let me know how you're enjoying the lives, if you find them beneficial and helpful. And we can continue to build on those from there. If you don't do any of that, be sure to subscribe, YouTube, follow, Instagram, and TikTok. For more, as we continue navigating through healing and doing relationships the right way, which starts with doing the healing work on ourselves first. For those of you who were here in attendance to this live, I appreciate you so much. And for that, I actually want to give you my discounted Calendly session. Okay. If you send me a message with the code word Friday as you're watching this live, you send me the code word Friday, I'll be able to send you the link to book your session. All right. And we will go from there. Okay. It's at 50% off for this month, for the rest of June. And we can go from there. Okay. Just as a token of appreciation and thanks to you for being a part of the stream and listening in. Okay. If you have questions, comments, concerns, all the things, be sure to send me a message and stay in touch as we're building on this and having healthier, happier, and whole relationships with ourselves, with God, and with others, while building security that lasts beyond marriage, and having healthy conversations around dating like this. Okay. Alrighty. I appreciate you guys a ton, and enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll talk soon. All right. Take it easy. Peace. Take it easy, YouTube, Instagram.